John. This is ring announcer Thomas Triber. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the time has arrived for Inside Boxing Weekly. So here are your hosts, Mike Goodpaster, John Einreinhofer, and Jeremiah Preisser on the Grueling Truth Sports Network.
Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Inside Boxing Weekly is brought to you by the Retired Boxers Foundation, so make sure you check them out on Facebook. I am your host for the show, Mike Goodpaster, and tonight we only have one co-host. Jeremiah is on strike until he gets paid more, because ever since Le'Veon Bell's done it, he thought it was a good idea, so he's trying it now. Help me welcome to the show, John Einreinhofer.
Let's just hope he doesn't sit the boxing year of 2019 out.
Yeah, well, he could, because I know he's really upset that you make more money than him now, John.
Yeah, that's saying something.
Because we doubled what John makes, and we kept Jeremiah at the same, so he's been upset ever since. But it's been a while since we've been on, John. We got 3 cards at least from looking at this weekend, so let's go ahead and get into them. We'll start off with the card on ESPN Plus, Bryant Jennings, Oscar Rivas. What's your take here? Does Rivas have any chance? Because I would think this is a cakewalk for Bryant Jennings.
Well, this is close to an even money fight, Mike. Rivas, I like the fight. I give Top Rank credit for putting the fight together. I'd prefer to see it on regular ESPN and ESPN Plus, because you take that and Shakur Stevenson on the undercard. To me, that's not bad. I mean, you've got a competitive heavyweight main event. Rivas has some amateur pedigree. He was about to move into some bigger fights a couple of years back with PBC, and he had some problems, I believe, with illness and some things, and he got sidelined. So he's working his way back. He's undefeated, not a massive banger for a heavyweight, but Jennings isn't either.
Though.
No, this is going to be his. This is what we're really. Of course, we want Bryant Jennings. We know about more, and he's been fighting reasonably well. He's probably on the cusp of getting himself back into the legit top 10. That's what's at stake for him, and he's Top Rank's main heavyweight. And then Rivas is, got to answer the questions about what he actually has, because, as you correctly pointed out, he hasn't fought anybody yet. So, tomorrow night we're going to find out about Oscar Rivas, and we're going to see if Bryant Jennings keeps his momentum going. But the fight is pretty close to even money with the odds makers.
All right. So
I am going to go with Jennings, though. He hasn't been spectacular since he's been working his way back, but I do think he's looked solid, and he's kind of raised my confidence in him a little bit again. And I think, Rivas, with the sporadic activity, like you said, hasn't been tested. Jennings, not a banger, so I'd say decision, but I'll go with Bryant Jennings by decision in this one.
Yeah, I like Jennings too. There's just not enough on Rivas to pick him in this fight, I don't think. Shakur Stevenson's on the undercard. You want to talk a little bit about this undercard and ESPN Plus for Friday night?
Yeah, Shakur Stevenson's a good enough of a talent that even though, we know he's not in particularly tough yet, he said that he wants to be now, and I think that's maybe true, even though they don't want to rush him, because, the knockout power came out last fight, and that made him more interesting. Of course, he's a very young guy, and he's got the amateur pedigree, but he wasn't showing the power in some of his early fights. But that seems to have come along, so now you're real excited about him getting ready, where he's going to be fighting legitimate top 10 guys soon. So I think it's good that he's got an appearance, and with a good heavyweight main event, makes it a decent card.
All right, then we got DAZN, which is not a decent card. We got Demetrius Andrade against Artur Akavov. Akavov's most recent result, from what I found, was 2016, a 12-round decision loss to Billy Joe Saunders. This is a mismatch, and overall, this card is not very good, John.
No, this is a dreadful card for the DAZN supporters. We'll get into your positives later on, since you got some today, but this is not your positive. This is an awful card. I don't like to go back and forth with the different promoters with the ticket sales like some of the writers are, but on this one, I guess I have to mention it because I did see a credible report that they were reducing tickets below $20 trying to get some tickets sold for this thing. It's in New York. So it's not doing well. It shouldn't be doing well. It's just a card of mismatches, starting with Andrade at the top, and I don't think this Akavov guy has anything for him, and the odds reflect that. So this is one where really, Andrade just needs to get a stoppage and at the very least try to make some kind of statement. But this will probably even get overshadowed by the ESPN Plus card that Top Rank's putting on, which is a better card. And you've got, of course, all the big action we're going to talk about Saturday night. So this card's just kind of dead on arrival.
Yeah, Jorge Linares will be on there. I guess Pablo Cesar Cano, but it's been a while since he's been relevant. I'd imagine just to stay busy, get a win after you lost to Lomachenko fight.
Yeah, Linares, he has had one fight since then. He's fighting at 140 pounds now. The guy proved against Lomachenko he can fight. Cano is long past better days, and Linares is a huge favorite in this fight. Linares is a guy who tends not to get the stoppage a lot of times, even though he would seem to have the talent to do so. So you can't be certain he's going to get one here, but odds would suggest he should, and certainly expect him to win the fight and move on to some bigger things.
All right, then we've got Saturday night, of course, on Showtime pay-per-view. We're going to start with the undercard. Rasheed Warren is back in action. He's fighting Nordine, whatever his name is, Obala. He is 14-0, though. I assume this will be a competitive fight for the vacant WBC World Bantamweight title, for whatever that's worth. And trinkets aren't worth much to me, and I know they're not worth much to you, John. But this could be a good fight.
Yeah, the belt part doesn't mean that much, but this is an Olympic rematch, which those are always somewhat interesting. And the odds makers do have Obali as a not a massive favorite, but more of a favorite than you would think. And really a lot of people whose opinion I respect do think that the odds are too wide in this fight, and think, like you said, Mike, that expect this to be a competitive fight. I lean that way too. I mean, this is a good shot for Warren on the undercard of a big fight that should have some significant exposure. Decent matchup, right? Fighting an undefeated guy. I would also lean towards, I think Warren will, give it all he has here and make a competitive fight out of it. But he's a solid underdog in the fight.
Yeah, I like Warren in this fight. Maybe it's just because I met him. He's a nice guy. Plus, he's got size 5 feet, which I've never met a grown man with size feet. So
he has been on your show before, Mike.
Yeah,
isn't that right?
He's been on a couple times. I think it was before you. I think Jeremiah might have been right about the time Jeremiah first started doing them with me. We had him on, and then I went to the Broner Granados fight at Centos Center in Cincinnati and met him there. He's a really nice kid. I hope he wins the fight. So my pick there is, you got to take it with a grain of salt because I like the kid. So, and this is the thing. We finally got a pay-per-view where the undercard is worthy of being pay-per-view, but the main event's not. And it's a light heavyweight fight. It's Badou Jack against Marcus Brown. I know you like Marcus Brown. Do you think he has enough experience to beat Badou Jack?
Yeah, I think he's got enough experience and enough talent, amateur pedigree. I'm going to go against the grain. Not only am I going to pick Brown, I'm going to pick him by knockout. But I've had faith in him. My reservation about him is he has serious legal problems going into this fight that really are beyond boxing even, and he's proceeding on. I mean, I've liked the guy in the ring. I know you have too, Mike. So you hate to see it for all different reasons. Just on the boxing part, then, it's serious enough that I wonder if it was going to, or if it is going to affect him. It reached a point where it made me hesitate. Should I still stay with him? I was going to be picking him going in, and And I thought, well, he's going through with the fight. He's got a fight in the ring. It's going to happen. I'm going to assume he's going to be well prepared, and I think that he comes at you with a southpaw stance, and he's got boxing skill and power. I think that that's going to be enough to get Badu Jack out of there. I'm going to still stay with Brown. Badu Jack is solid, but I think that people overrate him a little bit. Brown's chin has been reached in that fight against Kalaji and this Lenin Castillo fight, journeyman, where then he was kind of unimpressive after that. But Brown has had a lot of impressive performances as well, and a lot of impressive knockouts. You even go back a ways where he did it. To some of the veteran fighters when he's coming up, Shawnee Monahan. We've seen him knock out some decent opponents, and I think that he's going to have enough to get Badu Jack out of there.
I don't know. I mean, I worry about his commitment outside of the ring. The other thing is this: Jack has just fought a lot better competition. I think this is a huge step up for Brown. I'm going to go with the little upset here. I think Jack beats him. If it's an upset, I don't even know what the odds are. But
Jack's a very, very slight favorite. It's close to even money, but Jack is a slight favorite.
And that's kind of how I look at this fight. Just because, I mean, you look at him, he had to draw with Stevenson, beats Nathan Cleverly, James DeGale. Not like they're world beaters, but they're better than Shawnee Monahan, Lucian Butte, George Groves, Anthony Durrell. He's been in with some really good fighters. And how about this? I'm going to make the prediction that Jack wins a close fight, and then they fight a rematch, and Brown knocks him out. How about that?
Well, if Brown can, take care of his legal problems, and like I said, there's big outside the ring concerns there. You would have more faith in where it's going, because I think he's got the talent and ability, and I know you had liked him as well.
Yeah, I still like him. It worries me anytime you got somebody that hasn't faced that level of competition that's going in against somebody that's fought about everything you could see, if you know what I mean. And like I said, it's not like Cleverly and those guys are great fighters, but they are world-class fighters who've been ranked legitimately in top 10s before. So I just think this step up, combined with the fact that he may not be completely 100% where he should be, because unless he's a little off in the head, stuff like this has to affect you, John.
Yeah, and that's the question, and that's what makes it in boxing a particularly slippery slope, because part of the risks of your job description are getting hit in the head, and when you see these types of things happen outside of the ring, it concerns you even more about what is going on with the fighter, not to mention if in fact the was committed, what happened to the victim. So, which always comes first. So it's not a great situation, and you wonder what is going on with guys like Brown with these types of repeated problems. But he's going into the ring Saturday night, and since I don't know exactly how it's going to affect him, I just came to the conclusion that I didn't want to change the pick solely based on that. But it's close to even money. We don't know what's going to happen here. This is a good card. You can debate if you want to pay the $75 for it, and I don't blame any fans who say that they don't want to go for these pay-per-views. But one thing that to me I do make a distinction on is, if at least the card is decent with the odds on the fights and that the fight's being competitive, at least you're getting something there, and you are with this card. But if anybody didn't want to pay the $75, I certainly wouldn't blame them.
All right, we get to the main event. We'll talk about people that have issues out of the ring. Adrian Broner will fight Manny Pacquiao. It's not for a welterweight title, no matter what anybody thinks. And Adrian Broner has never been a real champion, no matter what anybody thinks. And on top of that, Manny Pacquiao's not an 8-time champion. There, I said it. He's like a 3-time champion, 4-time champion, something like that. He is an all-time great fighter. He's, 39? He just turned 40, I think. When you look at Pacquiao-Broner, I know Pacquiao's the older guy here, but the way Broner doesn't control himself outside of the ring tells me his 29 could possibly be older than 39. Am I crazy there, John?
No, Mike, I think some people have talked about it like you and I have, but not a lot of people. With what we know now about CTE, and you can't diagnose it in the living. You and I both know that. So we can't sit here on the show and say Adrian Broner has CTE. We don't know that. Nobody knows that. But when you get those kind of erratic behaviors, and you don't know even if you could diagnose it for sure if he'd be doing it because of that or not, but he might be, and we know he's been suicidal. That's just a fact. Again, it's something like it is similar to the Brown situation, and and you just don't know what's going on with a guy in this type of situation, and what you're getting at is certainly, I think, a reasonable take on it. That you don't know what Adrian Broner's situation is. He's licensed to fight, and I think that's the way PBC is just treating these guys. That if they're legally permitted to fight, this is their approach. I think that they're going to be loyal to that particular fighter, and they're going to let him go and let him make money, and of course they're going to make money too, and until that can't go on anymore. So I think that's where you got guys like Brown and Broner in this position, and of course there's been other fighters, but yeah, I think in the end that is what's. I felt solid with Manny Pacquiao like everybody else, the typical, unanimous decision type thing because Broner doesn't throw a lot. But then I started thinking about Pacquiao's age. Broner is at least quick. He does have some pop, but then I thought about exactly what you're talking about, and I thought he doesn't throw. He's got the out of the ring issues. You don't know really even what his mental condition is. You just can't put your money and pick the guy. So
yeah, and my biggest problem with it is this. I mean, the undercard is good. I like watching it, and Broner getting his ass kicked. The sad thing in all this is Al Heyman, I think, is just cashing in on Adrian Broner right now. I don't think there's any chance Broner wins this fight, and I've had people on the Grueling Truth Facebook page give me crap and say he's washed up and he's going to get knocked out. Adrian Broner has never beaten a fighter anywhere near Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, to me, is an all-time great fighter, and I know Floyd Mayweather was undefeated and beat him, but Floyd Mayweather's career doesn't match up with Pacquiao's because he fought everybody, and he fought a lot of guys in their prime. He always took a shot. The sad thing to me is Broner getting this money just because of the way he acts. The guy is a complete imbecile. And that's, imbeciles will probably be upset that I called him that because they're probably above him. But when you watch, did you see him go off on Al Bernstein yesterday?
I did. I didn't see it live, but I did watch it. And, I don't know if Broner's promoting, if it's, issues mentally. I mean, when he was saying it, he didn't look, I don't know. Did he look 100%? To me,
I think he was serious.
100% serious.
I think he was serious. He wouldn't let Kevin Coleman, his trainer, talk to him either.
Cunningham, yeah.
Because he said it was a gang thing. The guy is basically a joke. If you're an Adrian Broner fan, you're an idiot. Because I don't see how anybody could cheer for this guy. And then on top of that, he tells them as they're having their face-off showdown, I got a cat for you for dinner. And I got some sauteed German Shepherd for you in the back. And, I mean, the outrageous thing is this. You bake German Shepherd, you don't saute it. So the fact that he doesn't even know how to fix a German Shepherd properly is a problem, John.
Yeah, and the thing is...
Come on, John, laugh a little bit. You don't have to be a lawyer all the time.
I like to laugh like everybody else, but with Broner, I actually get concerned. That's why I'm not laughing.
I don't get concerned because I think he's an asshole. That's all it is. I mean, I hope he gets the crap knocked out of him by Pacquiao, and I'm really not a huge fan of Pacquiao. And I think this is one of the most depressing matchups you could ever find on pay-per-view.
Whenever you get a guy Pacquiao's age with a guy with Broner's problems, it's possible it could work out that way. But it is an intriguing fight, and the odds are close on paper. And even though Pacquiao's 40, he is still based on what he has done, on paper, he's a legitimate top welterweight. Now, I'm not picking him over any of the top welterweights, but
he's
is
still
in that
top 5. I mean, I would pick him over Danny Garcia.
Right.
I'd pick him to beat Garcia in a heartbeat.
Well, Garcia's got the problems with not punching, so
yeah,
it's similar to Broner like that. Pacquiao's still there on paper. That's why that Broner is not. He's not legit top 10. You can't pull alphabet stuff and everything. He's not a legit top 10 guy. He's coming off a draw with Jesse Vargas, which I thought Vargas edged the fight. I thought Broner made it close, but I didn't think Broner did enough to make it a draw. He did mark Vargas's face up at the end, but then Jesse Vargas had a draw with Thomas Delorme after that. So
yeah,
this is the
Vargas
thing
is just a good fighter, and he's a guy that didn't Pacquiao pretty much dominate him not too long ago.
Pacquiao dropped him and dominated him in recent years. So
yeah,
that's where when I was in weighing it, I just said I'm going to end up being like everybody else. I just can't put my trust in a pick of Adrian Broner in this fight.
No, nobody could put their trust in anything to do with Adrian Broner other than probably getting arrested again within a month after the fight. We talked about the zone.
But here's the question one thing to throw in there about the question on this one more, I think, on the main event from really the business part, though, that's interesting is there's legitimate criticisms of, of course, a lot of things going on with Broner and Pacquiao's 40, but you look at what Pacquiao did TV numbers-wise against Horn on ESPN, and you look at the numbers Broner does for whatever reason. And this fight, you got Jack Brown, you got Warren, and Obolai. This card might end up doing well. I'm not sure how it's going to go either. But
how about this? Will it do better than the 285 to 320,000 that Fury and Wilder did?
I think that's an excellent question, and that's what I thought. Because we're boxing fanatics. That's what I thought when I woke up this morning. I thought, all right, we're at Pacquiao-Broner weekend. These guys have done good numbers. Can this beat Fury-Wilder? I suppose the answer is it probably could. It probably could.
Because let's face it, Pacquiao is a guy that Pacquiao and Broner are both guys. You either love them or you want to see them get their asses kicked. With Wilder and Fury, most people are just asking who the hell are Wilder and Fury.
Yeah,
that aren't diehard fans. So I think Pacquiao-Broner is a fight where you can actually get some people that aren't diehard fans that may want to see this fight.
Maybe this does 500,000. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And I think that we're going to talk about this in a minute, but I think that's why. I don't think it's an exaggeration at all either. I think that's why DAZN wanted to get their announcement about Jacobs Canelo out today, because PBC is just picking up too much momentum, whether you like what they're doing or not. You take Fury Wilder. We'll talk about the Caleb Plant card last week. Now you got this. Thurman's coming up on free TV. They're going to bury they're going to bury everybody else if the competitors don't do something. So I think Top Rank's doing some things, and DAZN had to do something.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the Jose Uzda guy and Caleb Plant fight. I think a lot of people were surprised by Plant. I think we both liked Plant pretty much the whole way. Were you impressed with Plant? Was he better than you thought, or was it what you expected?
Well, I picked him, and I think he was maybe, and I thought that when he was pressed, he had after watch. I got to see him a lot on the way up, and I thought, he was like a Lara and a Billy Joe Saunders. They're not guys that can't punch. They're guys that choose to be cautious. I thought he was a little more like that, and Katagi would press him, which he did, and that Plant might show more offense, and that's exactly what happened. But I think he showed even more offense than I thought he had. So I thought he had more than most people, but he had even a little more than I thought he had. The fight had a lot of action, even though I thought Plant dominated the fight. He scored 2 knockdowns. There was blood. There was a good backstory for Plant that was pretty moving. And for free TV, I'll still count FS1 as free TV because most people have it on their cable package. It couldn't have gone much better. The main event peaked at 984,000, most that's ever seen a boxing show on FS1. So it's not NFL numbers as we know, but that's pretty damn good. And I just you had Brandon Figueroa on the undercard looking real sharp. He's a future star. I don't think it could have gone much better for PBC and really boxing because you had I did see a few casual fans that I know. I wouldn't even call them casual. There's people that don't watch boxing and that I know, and they watched it. So, with the NFL promos and steering them that way. So I thought that ended up being a really good night for boxing.
See, I always wondered why they didn't have live boxing on Sunday nights anyways after football season. Because there's really nothing
more people
else
are
there.
watching TV.
Yeah,
and more people are watching TV.
Yeah.
Right. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Because we're used to boxing being on a Saturday, but there's many more people watching TV on Sunday.
Well, hell, if you remember when we were younger, 70s, 80s, the closed circuit, what would be considered pay-per-view fights now, were usually on during the week.
Yeah, they would do stuff like that. They wouldn't worry about the Saturday night thing.
Yeah. I mean,
it wasn't Leonard Hurds. It wasn't Leonard Hurds on like a Tuesday or something like that.
I know it was. It was somewhere between Monday and Thursday. I remember Duran Leonard 1 was on a Friday night, but I think Duran Leonard 2 was either on a Tuesday or Thursday night. Ollie Holmes was like a Monday or Tuesday night, so I think it could be done. And there's nothing else on free TV wise on a Sunday night, anyways.
Yeah, you want to get watched, and I thought right. I think it was good placement with the Sunday night. I think they'll do more of it, and I think most people were impressed, but I thought you're always going to get a couple of people saying negative things, and so I'm going to say my piece on that. I think Plant is a threat to anybody at 168. 168's not that strong overall, and I'm not saying who I'm going to pick head to head yet, but I think he's a threat to beat anybody at 168 based on what I saw Sunday night.
Well, there's nobody at 168.
No, it's not. It's definitely one of the weaker out of 17.
You got a couple protected guys that aren't very good. Canelo popped up there, but that was just so he could beat up Rocky Fielding for fun, and then he went back down. And we're going to talk about that. He goes back down to 160 on May 4th. I'm assuming that's Cinco de Mayo or whatever. What should that be? May 5th?
Cinco de Mayo weekend,
yeah. Yeah, but he is going to face Daniel Jacobs. I think this is a great fight. I still would have rather seen a third fight between Canelo and Triple G, just so we could argue about the decision. But my concern there is Triple G is only going to get worse from here on out because he's getting up there in age. So hopefully there's never a third fight between them because I think all chances to have a competitive fight now are gone if he's fighting Jacobs on May 4th. And my question with Jacobs is this. Physically, big dude, bigger than Canelo. But my problem is I don't know if he's going to be willing to force the action to impose that size and strength, John.
No, I think you're right there. I think I just kind of hooked onto this in Jacobs' recent fights. Well, I don't like punch stats except for I like them for these kind of numbers. I don't like them for deciding decisions or anything like that. But Jacobs actually his punch stats are some of the lowest in the middleweight division. So that fits kind of what your sense is there, Mike. In other words, yeah, he actually he's a very good fighter, but he's been throwing less in recent fights. And, Canelo always has a reasonable rate of activity. Jacobs is probably, but, you say, well, he's got to land with some big power, but Canelo and Golovkin have the best two chins in boxing. I feel pretty comfortable with that statement. So, if you're relying on one shot against Canelo to turn around the fight, that's not a really good strategy. I think we're in the minority, but I also felt the same, believe it or not. I would have preferred to see a third Golovkin-Canelo, have that now. Let Golovkin have one more crack at it. Just see what happens.
Yeah, and I think if you wait till September, I think you're really pushing that then, because that's another
you're
complete
pushing
year.
that.
Yeah, and I just think
that's where some people thought I was kidding around, but I put that out on Twitter right before the show. But I was serious, as I thought intriguing, because it fits with what we just talked about, and it's still technically up in the air. Yeah, if you're Golovkin, what if? I mean, maybe you sign with PBC, and maybe what if they put Golovkin and Plant together?
Yeah,
and I mean, hey, Plant's an interesting guy. You know, he's not so experienced though. Where an aging Triple G, you know, would certainly be intimidated by him or anything. But Plant's very fast. Might be a good story fight to put out there. And you can always, we don't like this part of it, and I don't. But you could throw the 168-pound belt trinket thing angle out there for Golovkin, and I don't know. I'm just thinking that if I'm, you know, apparently Golovkin's making these decisions with his wife now from the rumors. If I'm them, yeah, I'm with you. What do you want? You know, if Canelo's going to fight Jacobs now, I mean, you're going to hang around, you know, waiting to the end of this year, maybe even next year to fight Canelo again. Maybe take. There are credible reports that Heyman has offered him the most money, so maybe you think about taking it.
Yeah, I might as well take the money now. Another one, Amir Khan is going to fight Terrence Crawford April 20th on ESPN pay-per-view. Why?
Yeah, I think this now this is where you're going to get me going, because and this is where I do make distinctions. This is a joke to me. Yeah. Khan's not a legitimate top 10 welterweight.
It'll be an exciting fight until he gets hit,
which could be in the second round at this point in his career. You know, I mean, this is where I do make some distinctions. I'd rather get away from all the pay-per-views, but what PBC to me is doing, and Stephen Espinosa talked about this week, and I think he's right about that. You know, director of Showtime Boxing. I mean, their fights are competitive and intrigue that they're putting on the pay-per-view right now. Crawford Khan is not competitive, and there's no intrigue in the U.S. now. You know, I can't speak for our friends in the UK, but I don't see a big positive feedback even from them. In other words, you know, are their pay-per-view buys going to carry it? They pay a lot less than we do in the U.S. So I'm guessing Top Rank strategy on this and Hearns is, you know, pick up 150,000 in the U.S. because Crawford got a good rating on ESPN last time against Benavidez, and have the UK people at their lower price, you know, maybe buy 700,000 or something like that, and they think and come away with a profit. But to me, the fight's got no intrigue. It's not competitive. You know, Khan got dropped. He was in a life or death struggle with a journeyman, Samuel Vargas, in his last fight.
Yeah, and
this is just not competitive.
Yeah, and it just amazes me that you have two guys with the talent of Crawford and Spence, or we think the talent of Crawford and Spence, but we can't get either one of them to fight anybody worth a crap, much less each other.
Yeah, and that's where, as we all know, boxing has a big problem. Those kind of problems take too long to solve. That's why I'd like to see the fight like everybody else. Certainly one of the best fights that could be made in boxing. But we're just, the way these guys are going with their strategies, we're just not going to get that. So you have to, you know, hope like PBC has, like, love him or hate him, PBC's got the most guys signed in boxing. So, you know, they can, that's why their pay-per-view, at least headliners, are competitive or have some intrigue, because they've got the guys to do it with. And you know, that's why Aram's doing this deal with Khan. But what? It's not competitive. I don't see any intrigue to this. I don't see where this would go in the U.S. or where it's going to go. I mean, they're going with it, but in the UK, I would think that even fans there are not going to buy in. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, a fight I think that's even less intriguing is Joe Joyce is going to be facing former WBC heavyweight champion Berman Stavern now too.
Yeah, that's a disappointment. Yeah, there was credible rumors about Joyce and Ortiz. Ortiz is fighting Christian Hammer, who's used to being knocked out. He's used to being knocked out by European heavyweights instead of Luis Ortiz. I mean, you're going to get knocked out
He's
by
never
Louis
been
Sarkis.
knocked out by a 50-year-old, so he figured, what the hell?
I mean, so, and then Joyce, Stavern, I thought Stavern was a pretty good fighter at one point, but I'll be the first to say he's got nothing left. So this thing with Joyce shouldn't be happening.
All right.
But apparently, when we think about Joyce's opponents, this is bizarre news today, but it's real. It's a head scratcher, but then if you're going to think of it not being a head scratcher, the guy I would think of as Joe Joyce. Dillian White is going to the Pacquiao-Broner card, apparently as a guest of PBC on Saturday night. So, I don't know if they're trolling Eddie Hearn or what, but Dillian White is apparently being courted by PBC.
All right. So, do you think Wilder Fury 2 happens? I don't. At least not right now.
I think it happens, and I think it'll happen in the spring, and I think it'll do well.
I don't think it'll happen, but I don't know. I just at some point I would like to see Joshua and Wilder fight, but it's getting to the point I don't care anymore, John. I did care 2 years ago, but I care about as much as that as I do watching Adrian Broner talk shit at the weigh-in tomorrow, which we know he's going to make a complete and utter ass out of himself anyways. And is Errol Spence ever fighting again?
I'm thinking like you're not. Well, yeah, he's got Mikey Garcia coming up on pay-per-view.
Oh yeah, that's right. That'll probably get canceled or something. And Mikey Garcia should be fighting Lomachenko.
Well, that's where you got the promotional split. So.
But so we get Bob Arum wants Lomachenko to fight, I think, Anthony Krolin next. That'll be a great fight.
Yeah, that's a real barn burner.
Yeah, for about 4 rounds. There will be some reconstructive surgeons though that probably make a very nice penny off of it.
Oh, that's just an awful fight. I was just hoping that wasn't going to happen.
Me too, but it looks like it's going to happen. Usually, your worst fears are always realized if you're a boxing fan.
They are, and Arum is saying the schedule's being lined up because Arum is saying now too. If then Comey beats this guy that he's being put in for the vacant alphabet belt, which he will beat. That I guess Lomachenko is going to fight Comey after that. So.
All right. Another interesting one, which I saw, I think yesterday or the day before, was that DAZN was trying to make Dimitri Bivol against Joe Smith Jr. also.
Yeah, that's going to happen on March 9th, but it's a suicide mission in the sense it's going up against the Ugas Porter free card on Fox. So I don't get it. And I don't get Joe Smith.
Wait a second now. It's on DAZN, which I've already got. So I would probably rather watch Bivol and Joe Smith anyways.
I like watching, Joe Smith. He provides, he with his power, it's always interesting. Right. Somebody's going to get hurt. I think that Joe Smith must be getting a lot of money for this fight because it doesn't make that much sense. He was trying to fight Beater Biev. It's a better style matchup, but then Beater, it was rumored and then turned out to be true. Beater Biev he's going to fight on ESPN with that Top Rank deal. So, and they've collected some pretty good light heavyweights. I like their plan there. They're having Gilberto Ramirez move up to light heavyweight, and got Gavodstik, and now they've picked Beater Biev up over there. They've got Alvarez and Kovalev fighting on there, so that's going to be pretty decent. I think ESPN will give us some good stuff there. But Joe Smith's management, all I can think of is the money. It does seems like he could get better exposure elsewhere and maybe have fights that'll be a little bit easier for him. I think Bivol is a bad style matchup for him. But, yeah, that fight's going to happen. So, I mean, they're both legit top 10 guys, and Bivol addered near the top of the division. So it's a totally legit fight. It's certainly not a bad fight, but I think it's a bad style matchup for Joe Smith.
Joe Smith can hit you, though. If he can hit you, he's got a chance. But we don't know what kind of punch Bivol takes, but I'm pretty sure he can take a punch.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Smith's one of those guys that it's not an exaggeration. I mean, if he tags you solid, he's going to get you out of there. So
yeah.
you always have that when he's fighting.
Yeah, and Bivol has not looked as good recently. I don't think he's looked like he's progressed a whole lot over the last year.
No, he's actually hasn't looked good in his last 2 fights against Chilumba and Pascal. So maybe that's the other thing Joe Smith's management's looking at. I'm not looking at it that way because I figure maybe Bivol might have let down a little, but maybe Joe Smith's management's looking at it and saying, "Hey, Eddie Hearn and DAZN's giving us a truckload of money, and our guy can punch, and Bivol couldn't get Pascal and Chilumba out of there."
All right, John. Anything else you want to bring up or talk about?
No, I think we pretty much got it covered. Good card on FS1 last week. This card is good this week with Pacquiao and Broner, but people want to sit out the $75. I don't blame them. Not a bad top-ranked card Friday night. Bad card on DAZN, but they did give us Jacobs and Canelo as of tonight, so they're going to deliver something there.
Yeah, as long as we got Jacobs, Canelo, and they got a couple other fights that are set up that are pretty decent fights too. I still think it's better than having HBO and Showtime charging me $14 a month. So, of course, Showtime's still getting me for $14 a month, but
I've got a package. I've got a weird package where I get a discount when I have HBO and Showtime. So
yeah, I know.
I can't cancel my HBO.
Now I want to get rid of it. Yeah. That's why I'm paying.
Right.
You can't get rid of it. I call them and say,
yeah.
I want to get rid of this and this, and they'll say, but then you'll pay $5 more. And I'm like, how the hell is that possible?
That's exactly what I got. So
yeah,
you can't win.
All right. Jeremiah, of course, will be back next week. We just re-signed him to a long-term contract, so I don't know if John will be back, because now Jeremiah is making $15,000 more a year than John is per year. Make sure
you'll just have to give me more. You'll just have to give me more, or I'll go to DAZN.
There you go. Well, you can go to DAZN and talk to yourself, because that's pretty much what they've done so far from looking at the signups.
That's right.
Tomorrow at noon, Survive in Advance with myself, Steve Risley. We will have our conference championship game previews. John, who do you got in the AFC and NFC championship game?
I was thinking about that today also, and I'm going with the Chiefs. I feel pretty good about the Chiefs, even though the Patriots looked better than expected last week. New Orleans is so tough at home when they got a good team. I'm leaning towards them, but I think the Rams actually have a better team, so that one I'm waffling on a little bit there. But I'm just leaning towards the Saints because they're so tough in the Superdome.
I think both games are toss-ups. And you can see that by the fact that the home teams are favored by 3, and usually that's what a home team gets.
Right.
Points to start off before you make the line. So,
yeah,
all right.
It's almost like an even money type thing.
Yep, and there's no West Virginia basketball shows. Did they suck this year or something?
Oh my God! The TCU beat them by 31?
Oh, okay.
This
Never
week,
mind.
and they got Kansas at 2 p.m. on Saturday. So
that sounds like fun.
It's awful. Bob Huggins fixed it once a couple of years ago when I had doubts. He said, "I'm going to fix it," and I was like, "No, you can't." And he did fix it. He's going to have to say that again and do it one more time because this is awful.
But all right, so tomorrow, Survive in Advance with myself, Steve Risley. We'll have Anthony Servino from the FF Face Off to talk about the game, and special guest, former Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 36, Mark Edwards, the old Notre Dame fullback that started in Super Bowl 36 when the Patriots upset the Rams. So make sure you check us out there. Saturday, the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show will be on after the Indiana game, which I think the game's at 2. So the Indiana Basketball Show will be somewhere around 4:30 as Indiana goes to Purdue. That is with myself, former Indiana Hoosiers Steve Risley, and former Indiana Hoosier Colin Hartman. So make sure you check all of those out. Go to thegruelingtruth.net. Follow us at Grueling Truth. Go give us a like on Facebook. Rate us on iTunes. So, for John Einreinhofer, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.